this is a big one that inexperienced sales professionals miss out on, is that there is an organizational hierarchy in large organizations, in large enterprises, but there is also a political hierarchy. So what that means is, you might deal with the office manager who reports to the sales manager who reports to the general manager who reports to the CEO, organizational hierarchy. But it really turns out that in the political hierarchy, the office manager is best friends with the CEO, and the office manager is the person that is actually pulling the strings. Hypothetical, right?
Yep.
Or, there is a external consultant who is not in the organizational hierarchy, but is a really strong, trusted advisor. Are you talking to that consultant? Because if you're not, you've missed it. Selling does change in the approach, in who you engage with, how you engage, who you bring into the sales process with you. But fundamentally, it shouldn't change. What it is, it's degrees of complexity and amount of length, right? So let me talk, I think, first of all, and more importantly, about what's consistent across sales. Consistently across sales, irrespective of the size of the organization, is, as I say, sort of matching offer to value, right? To need. And so you've got to always be thinking, how do I become part of the customer's value chain? Sometimes that's a very short process because you're dealing with a small organization with a small value item, and so the decisions can be very quick. But there's still a value exchange in that process. That's the first thing. Now, thinking about it in terms of what's fundamentally different, let's say, first of all, large organization, small organization. In a large organization, for more complex products, because it's not always a complex product into a large organization, they still buy pens and staplers, believe it or not, right? But if we talk about a large organization into a complex product, the biggest difference, I think, is that you have a multiple stakeholder engagement. What that means is that there are different people engaged in the buying decision. You do have an economic owner. So there is someone that owns a budget, but you might have a technical owner, someone that specifies specifies the requirements. You may have influencers, people that are users or are trusted parties within the organization who may have an opinion as to what's right. That may not necessarily be functional. It may be perception. It may be relationship. It may be credibility. There is trust with this organization or that individual. And you have sign-offs, people that need to assume the risk ultimately for what is purchased because it has impact across the organization. And so on and so forth, right? We can so that's the first thing about large organizations. You've got multi-stakeholder engagement. The other thing, and I think this is a big one that inexperienced sales professionals miss out on, is that there is an organizational hierarchy in large organizations, in large enterprises, but there is also a political hierarchy. So what that means is, you might deal with the office manager who reports to the sales manager who reports to the general manager who reports to the CEO, organizational hierarchy. But it really turns out that in the political hierarchy, the office manager is best friends with the CEO, and the office manager is the person that is actually pulling the strings. Hypothetical, right?
Yep.
Or, there is a external consultant who is not in the organizational hierarchy, but is a really strong, trusted advisor. Are you talking to that consultant? Because if you're not, you've missed it, right? There is also things that happen not because they are the best thing for the organization, but because they're the best thing for the people in that organization or the person. Do you understand what is that motivation? Is it because the person doesn't want to be exposed? Is it because if this fails, that person doesn't want to have to carry the can. Do you understand politics of the organization? So this is big business, right? Politics, an organization, multi-stakeholder engagement for complex products.
Right.
I think in the smaller organizations, those things generally don't exist. The smaller you get, and right down to micro Sohos, right? You're basically dealing with the top almost always. As you get smaller, you're more likely to deal with the top, and then it becomes a question of the personality. I believe the personality profile of that buyer. Are they risk averse? Are they entrepreneurial? Are they the kind of person that says, hey, I need to buy this accounting software. It needs to do this for me. And if I can get it under $100 a month, I'm done. You ring up, hey, I've got this software, $90. It's recommended by this magazine, and it's going to be able to, okay, great, done. Where do I sign? Low involvement, low engagement. They know what they want. Others may, even if it's $90, let me check MYOB, let me check all of the other different products that are out there, Xero, and let me check all of the features, let me check the terms and conditions, and you spent 3 months selling a $90 a month subscription. So it then becomes a question of this, I think, the psychology of the buyer that you're engaging with more prominently than the political and organizational hierarchy of a buying group.
Yeah, okay. So the sales process is essentially the same. The length in terms of the follow-up or the communication, that's factor one. The number of people which you need to sell into, that's factor two. So the smaller the company and the shorter the sale, the faster the process. And the bigger the sale or the more complex, the longer the sale. And then you have risk that if you're going to the wrong company and you're spending 6 months, but that's the wrong one, then that's where it's kind of like higher stakes, right? Because if you get that level wrong, you've lost a year of opportunity cost of success of your organization, right?
Correct. Look, I want to add that there is a third point, and then I'll come back and tackle that comment that you made, because it's a very good one. The third point about enterprise selling that I forgot to mention is that it's not just lots of people on the buyer side, it's actually lots of people on the sales side. When you sell into an organization, into an enterprise for complex products, you are not just the one person. You've got to bring your technical people, your accounts people, your consultants, different subject matter experts, your executive sponsors. There's a complex engagement as well that comes to build that trust and that credibility, that intimacy, all of those aspects that I described. They're not vested in one person. It's truly organizational. So it is far more difficult, particularly when you're talking about doing a $50 million a year deal, right? Which is a big decision, very different to buying a $50 a month accounting package, right? So, because the risk reward is huge. So it's a very different process.
And just to be clear, you've had that level of experience trying to sell that size of a deal. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I just want to put that out there clearly for people that are listening. Just think the complexity of trying to get our company to sign a contract for 50 mil, right? Think how hard it is for $5,000.
That's right.